Spiral Dynamics was built on the work of Claire Graves, who was a social psychologist, right, and who did extensive research on the development of values and worldviews within individuals, and he was sort of mapping out these different value systems and worldview levels and the concrete stages that people move through and must move through, and cultures as well must move through as we progress up the spiral of development. And I know one of the things that he said was that humanity is preparing for a momentous leap, that there's a quantum level shift to a new value system and worldview that he was starting to pick up in a certain small percentage of people he was studying, that it was of a different, categorically different order than all of the other kind of value systems. And I know in your work this is referred to as the leap to second tier consciousness or integral consciousness. And I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about what maybe tell us the story of what was it that he saw in people that was different, and now as somebody yourself who's really been working very deeply on this kind of the shifts and the sort of tectonics of worldview and value shifts. What does it really mean to be integral? What is that higher level? So kind of maybe the story of how that emerged in Graves' work, and then a little bit about what is a person like when they move to that level?
That's a great question there. I used to have a long conversation with Dr. Graves about that. We became very, very close friends. And he said, Don, I can't tell you exactly why this is happening, but I'm finding people in my research that are profoundly different. I said, how's that, Claire? Well, he said, they seem to be able to solve more problems more quickly. They seem not to have a commitment to a point of view where they are frozen to only promote that point of view. They seem to be able to shift quickly. But also, he said, they seem to have fixed in mind a goal, an output of some kind. So they're driven by practical solution to a problem, not by a particular pattern that has been used historically, and they can unfreeze themselves to do it. He says, the second, there's a noticeable absence of fear. They're not fear of loss of faith, they're not fear of social pressure, they're not the fear of loss of popularity, they're not fear of a deity. It just, for some reason, caution is there. I mean, they're very cautious people, so they're not naive about it. But that element of fear just doesn't seem to exist. Third, he told me, Don, there's a sense of joy in them. There's a sense of happiness. There's this sense of total enjoyment of life, not a recluse, not someone off to Walden's Pond to vegetate. That's not the model I'm finding. I'm finding proactive, fun-loving. If they choose to get involved, they will, and they'll be up to their elbows in it, to be sure. But if they choose not to be involved, you can't buy them. They're simply not for sale. There's an internal compass that seems to drive them, their own sense of ethics and integrity. And I think since his research in the 1960s, he didn't anticipate the end of the Cold War. He didn't anticipate computers and email and Skype and all those things. He really didn't have a sense of that, but he had an intuitive feel that humanity is approaching a major crisis. In his own thinking, he could see that the earlier, what we call first-tier systems, were going to run their life cycle. He says now this particular transformation into what he called the levels of being that we call second tier today will not characterize a single person, but will be ways of thinking in people about different topics. They may still have to worry about paying off master charge, so you may not see the full expression of those systems until life conditions get better. But there will be in them courage, there will be in them, as I say, a sense of joy and happiness in life itself. They will enjoy life to its fullest. There will be in them not a recklessness, but an understanding of what they can do and what they can't do, so they will walk away from something. They tend to hang around the periphery of power right now, and if a crisis occurs and they're called upon to help, they will. If not, you won't see them anymore. They'll have alternative lifestyles. They decide what's important to them. So it's a whole new system that we're beginning to see. And one thing I've learned, typically someone who claims he's there isn't.